Now for our roundtable, continuing with our guest, Antonio Fins. Brian Crowley, appreciate you being with us. Legislative session starts January 11th, and then as part and parcel of that, redistricting, which I know seems inside baseball to people, but let me ask you first and foremost, top of mind to you as we head into the new year?
Well, it's not top of mind for most people, redistricting, but it is going to be critical for a number of reasons, and not least of which is the balance of power in the U.S. House. Florida will get one more seat. You know that line's going to be drawn to make it a Republican seat. We're also hearing that some of the more competitive seats, including that one down in South Miami, in Miami-Dade County that goes into the Keys, which has been flipped like 5 times in the last 10 years, that seat's going to be much more Republican. So to sort of keep the Republicans in power, well, to keep the Republicans who hold those seats, keep them there, but then also allow them to pick up extra seats. And remember, the margin of the Democrats have to control the House of Representatives is a handful. So Florida will factor big, and how those lines are drawn in Florida will be the path potentially to the Republicans taking back the U.S. House.
And also when you hear people like Stephanie Murphy, a House moderate who says, I'm not running again, a Democrat, that margin could grow even more if Republicans can flip that seat. She won't run again in 2022. Brian, your take?
Well, I think another thing that's sort of maybe a little off the radar right now is once all the redistricting is done, and what the Republicans are doing with tinkering with redistricting to their own advantage is exactly what the Democrats would do if they were in charge. So I'm not going to cast aspersions on what the Republicans are doing. I'm more concerned about the fact that it has become, there's so much vitriol out there now that I think a lot of when they redistrict and new candidates are being recruited to run for some of these districts, who wants to do it anymore? Why do you want to put up with the threats, the social media, conversations that trash everything you say and do on both sides? This is not unique to one side or the other, and we're in an atmosphere now where people are picketing in front of people's houses, going after family members and everything. I think the quality of the kind of candidates we're going to have running our government is going to diminish considerably.
I call it our anti-social media world on all sides. It's something we've talked about and grappled with, and I think as a country we continue to and will be for, well, forever. Yeah. It's not going away. Let's talk, we talked a little bit about redistricting. Education consumes roughly about a third of the budget, so anything we should particularly be watching for? Governor pushing for more teacher pay. The schools and school boards have become sort of the litmus test on culture wars as well. We saw in Virginia that played out about teaching or not teaching critical race theory. It's not being taught in Florida, but the governor continues to push on that issue. Kind of give me your Reader's Digest on education and CRT.
Yeah, Michael, don't let the facts get in the way of a good rant, as we used to say in some quarters. I mean, the fact of the matter is that it is great politics, the whole critical race theory, and we just had the governor issue his legislation to address that and keep it out of schools and colleges, even though it doesn't matter.
It's not in schools.
And even
remember the sanctuary cities legislation? We have none, but it doesn't matter.
Right, but we don't have any.
But keep them out. Remember the whole thing?
Red meat. Oh yeah.
Florida ran a great election last year, but now we need more. We need more reforms. Look, that's what's going on here, but the interesting thing, as Brian just mentioned about that legislation, is that the anti-woke critical race theory legislation is that it has language in it that addresses, hostile work environments in businesses. And yet again, here we have the used to be, business-friendly Republican Party now telling businesses how to run their businesses.
In terms of masks and vaccines, in terms of
hostile
work environment regulations.
And now even their diversity programs. Every company out there has a diversity program.
Well, they've even done a thing now where there's going to be annual surveys of state colleges and universities to test the political climate. I don't even know what that means.
Well, and already late last year, my alma mater, the University of Florida, big black eye when professors were allegedly being told, we don't know about you testifying in lawsuits, challenging the new voting laws passed by the governor, which Republicans say are fair and equitable. Democrats say will unfairly target minority communities. So there's that whole academic freedom debate going on. UF later said, no, you can talk about that. But it's all part and parcel of this ongoing debate, and part of the ongoing culture war debate.
Well, and part of the problem is that Democrats have done a horrible job of counter messaging. They get called communist, they get called socialist, you know, every name in the book you can think of, and they never have a counter argument that seems to have any weight. They're just really bad at messaging.
I want to ask you about the whole abortion debate. First, we have a Texas-style law. Some in the GOP Florida legislature say we'll bring up a Texas-style law, a heartbeat bill after 6 weeks. Of course, we got the Mississippi case that's before the Supreme Court. Roe v. Wade could be very weakened, if not effectively gutted. Many argue, how does that play into the debate in Florida? And how does it also play as we look into 2022, into a big election cycle here? We'll start with you, Antonio.
Well, look,
And by the way, the Supreme Court ruling probably not till June.
Right. Well, look, it's another one of those wedge issues that we used to call wedge issues. It's going to be played up. I mean, Florida, the one thing that Florida cannot on the national stage is be upstaged by Texas. So whatever Texas does, we have to do better. So you're going to see that. And in Florida, in all honesty, I mean, this is something, the heartbeat bill is something that, you know, lawmakers on the right in the Republican Party have been pushing for a long time. And now that you have not only a conservative, majority on the U.S. Supreme Court, but you've got a favorable, state Supreme Court, what's to keep them from pushing along? I mean, it would be a shock if this didn't make it to the governor's desk.
Right?
Yeah, I think ultimately Roe v. Wade is gone, and or modified so drastically that it's just going to be entirely up to the states, and that will be a huge issue in the 2022 election, and it'll be interesting to see how the Governor DeSantis and whoever his Democratic opponent is handle this issue in the general election, because I think it's going to be big.
Final thoughts before we head into break, Antonio?
One of the things I've been thinking about is, this whole worker shortage issue. Mm-hmm. And we heard the governor say back in the spring, we got to get out of the federal unemployment benefit system because too many Floridians, there's too many job openings, and we need people back to work. Well, got rid of it, everybody went back to work, and we still have a major worker shortage. And now the question I'm hearing from a lot of people is, remember that crackdown in immigration? Well, guess what? Remember that Florida has a disproportionate number of tourism and leisure and hospitality businesses, restaurants, hotels, theme parks, that really were largely staffed by low-skilled immigrants. But we told those low-skilled immigrants, we don't want them here. We want brain surgeons. Well, brain surgeons aren't going to work in tourism. So you're wondering if, that whole rhetoric about anti-low-skilled immigrants is coming back to haunt the labor market in Florida.
Brian, less than a minute before we go to break. Any
well,
final thoughts from you?
One of the interesting things, I think, is we look at Governor DeSantis clearly running for president in 2024. I frankly wouldn't even be surprised if he ran against Donald Trump in 2024. He wants the job so bad. But it begs the question, as he runs in 2022, is he running for part-time governor? Pray tell, what do I mean? Well, if he wins, he takes office in January 2023. What's 2023? We start leading into
2024.
2024. But what people may not recall is that you spend most of 2023 in New Hampshire and Iowa, because at the beginning of the 2024, that's when they have Nevada, South Carolina. You want to win those states, and I've spent a lot of time covering the primaries and caucuses in those states. You got to be there, and he'll be a part-time governor.
Thank you for the crystal balls. I wish we all had ones that were as clear as yours. We'll see.
Mine is cracked.
We'll check back, and we'll be back with their final thoughts in a moment.